Well, hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of You'll Never Talk Alone, recorded at a very different time than our last episode this week.
Drastically different.
The lies that you heard at the end of that episode.
We now have two sick cast members on the show, so I mean, very different timing.
Yeah, totally way down the road, yet still in the same week. Joined this different day by Joseph Craven and Will Caves. Fellas, how are you guys doing?
I'm great.
I'm doing better than Zach or Andrew.
Will, your "I'm great" sounded very convincing.
I'm great.
Yeah, so it's international break, and most of our players didn't play. So we decided to give you, the listener, a little peek inside of our minds, inside of our soccer minds, and give you a taste of what we appreciate in a player. So we've put together some lists. The first list is a list of 487 players each that we respect and admire. No, it's three players from kind of any team, non-LFC related, that you just love. You can't get enough of. Something about them really does it for you, and your club allegiance does not interfere with your admiration for them. And then the second list we've put together is just kind of three of our all-time favorite LFC players. So just anybody from any era. I feel like, considering the general time period when all of us started watching Liverpool, we'll all have at least one in common. But we'll see what the other two are, and maybe we even make him off limits and see what we come up with. So
I'm going to go ahead and let you know I did try to avoid putting him on my list just because he's an obvious choice.
Yeah, and we'll just say it. Craig Bellamy, obviously all of our favorite player.
Oh, geez. I was going to go John Joe Shelby since Will mentioned him on the last podcast. Yeah.
Well, that's why
we're all going John Joe.
Well, then I'm glad that we had this conversation right now, just so we know that it's not. We were thinking of different people. But yeah, let's just jump right in, because since it's such a different time, we're running out of time. So, Will, I'll start over with you, because we talked about our players a little bit before, and yours surprised me in a good way. I don't really know why they surprised me so much, but they did. So
I'm a man of culture.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So why don't you start us off?
Well, which one am I? Do I just all three?
Yeah, you just pick one and tell us why, and then we'll tweet at you and tell you that your opinion is garbage.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion is garbage, but I will say that my number one player of all time is definitely Ronaldinho. It's got to be. I love watching him play. He's a joy. He is just a wonderful individual, and he's just so fun. Like, how do you not like Ronaldinho?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Is it weird to you guys that he dropped out of the prime of his career very rapidly?
No, not really. I mean, I think he he should have played a little bit longer, probably. But I hate he hung around almost too long, if that makes sense. Like, he just was not. I feel like he wore out his welcome. Going to Milan at that stage, and how Milan was, just wasn't the best situation in general.
Yeah. But he was so good that he could get away with doing something like that. He could go to a huge club like Milan, even massively overweight, and just not practicing at all, and still contribute.
I mean, is that kind of, because I just always, in my head, the dude was just unbelievable, and then instantly was basically done. You know what I mean? There wasn't a tail off, I guess, is really in my head. He didn't fade away. And was that entirely just the work ethic thing? Because some stories did come out later on where he was kind of an eccentric person when it came to his celebrity status, it seemed.
I don't know. He I think he he felt like he kind of got lazy, I think, and just felt like he didn't have to do much anymore. But I mean, that's what happens when you get out of shape when you're a player, right? Like that's why it happens, and it just was frustrating. But I don't know. He's always been my favorite. It's not. Can't really justify it necessarily, other than he was just really fun to watch.
I mean, that's as good a reason as any. Like there was so much stuff that he did. It was just, especially considering that he rose to prominence when YouTube was coming out.
Right.
So he was one of the first players that they were just compilations and compilations. And
yeah.
You go out in your backyard and you try to do all that stuff and you injure yourself because it shouldn't be possible.
I mean, when I really got into the sport was when I was in college, and when I was in college, of course, was right kind of at the, the tail end of like the era that was dominated by Thierry Henry and Ronaldinho. And it was a fun era to catch like the end of and really be able to bask in that and learn more about the game through that. So yeah, I'm always going to be grateful to the career of Ronaldinho, if for nothing else, being able to kind of get into the sport right when he was still healthy, still in his prime, all of that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. That's really all I got to say.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to start us off. And Joseph, you better have as good a player or better.
Well, I most certainly do. Thank you for bringing it up. No, I was kind of trying to think of guys that maybe are not like, I think are like the greatest of all time, type of thing, or like, I don't know. It was just, in particular, the mindset I was going into this with was like players that really helped me fall in love with the game when I was trying to, really get more into the sport. Some of the players that kind of helped shape my interest in all of that. And so I got to start with an American hero as far as a player that I would just always love, and that of course is American folk legend Jonathan Bornstein.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Landon Donovan is going to be one of those guys that will.
I don't think Bornstein would even be on Bornstein's list.
No.
Right.
I sometimes wonder if he remembers he had a soccer career. And he's like, wait a second, hold on. I did that, didn't I? No, Landon Donovan's going to be, the first one I bring up, because if you're coming up as you're trying to get into the sport more, and as the sport's becoming more popular here in the States, he's the first name that everyone gets familiarized with, because he is, shown himself to be like the heart and soul of the team in those, mid 2000s American U.S. national teams, and heroic performances in different World Cups. There will always be the go USA, goal and match and all of that will just go down in history as one of the biggest moments in, U.S. soccer. And he was always the heart and soul of all of that. Not to mention, he just was a good player, maybe stylistically could never quite cut it in England like we hoped that he would, never could quite cut it in the Premier League, but on the same level. But he was just a good player, and especially when you got him into an international competition for Team USA, he just like would try to make himself the best player on the pitch at all times. It was just, I don't know, his impact, not just helped get me into the sport more, but just, impacted the development of the sport in the States. So he's going to be my first choice.
Yeah, he's such an American legend, even despite his weird choices for sponsorships in the 2018 World Cup.
Yeah, I don't understand that one.
I don't either.
But even that couldn't undo it, and even him like refusing to retire Brett Favre style can't undo it, because he just did so much for the sport in America and scored so many big goals. I mean, it's just, he was a bona fide international superstar at the international level for us. Like, people that don't follow the U.S. a lot, they know who Landon Donovan is, and they know that he's good.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends that really hold to like Clint Dempsey's the best American player of all time argument. And I mean, there's a lot to say that, like, in Dempsey's favor, but I think to me, Donovan's always going to be the guy when I think of like the best we've had so far. Either him or Alexi Lawless, obviously.
Oh, naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah, he's so clutch, and these are two just great picks so far. And I'll try to back it up. Most of my picks, two of the three have kind of a theme where they were like so good that I feel like the universe didn't allow them to play consistently and just kept forcing them to get injured because the sport couldn't handle them playing all the time and being as good as they were. So the first one I'm going to go with is Pablo Aimar, who the guy that Messi looks up to most as a player. I mean, if he was rising to prominence about the time that I was first able to watch soccer consistently, and he was on that Rafa Benitez Valencia team that was so good, and he was playing for Argentina around that time, and just some of the stuff he would do with the ball was just ridiculous. Like, and the passes he would make, it's like, how are you seeing that? And then his close control, you could see just how gifted he was, and it was such a shame that every time he'd be getting closer and closer to being just like a huge name, he would get injured and be out for months. Which I feel so it was a real joy to be able to watch him when we could, because it wasn't very often that he would get to play. And I also had mad respect because he was pretty short and I'm pretty short, and so I was like, okay, short people can do this. Like he's given me hope, and he almost came to Liverpool, so that it makes me really sad that transfer never happened. But I'd always use whatever team he was on FIFA, and for a large time that was Real Zaragoza in Spain, and that was back when they had both Milito brothers and him, and people would be like, why are you picking this random Spanish team? And I'd be like, oh, you'll see. And then just bing, bang, boom, just domination. So yeah, he was magic, which I guess is why his nickname was the Magician, but I love him.
Man, I can always count on you to have like the deep dives, I
had a lot of free time. I had no siblings, so that I had the internet and illegal streams.
Absolutely.
That's what we all had back then.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask a quick question. Did both of you like grow up playing the sport?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. I wasn't sure. I remember both of you had some sort of playing background, but I couldn't remember if that was like you just kind of were always playing it like your whole life, or like kind of jumped in later on,
I played like growing up a lot, but it wasn't like I didn't take it seriously, I guess. Like I wasn't like Alex was way better than I was. Like it was fun, but like growing up in Laurel, like there wasn't a lot of opportunity to do super serious soccer. So
yeah, I was pretty soccer exclusive from a young age. I mean, I played tennis probably. That was the only other sport I played consistently throughout that time. But once I started playing soccer a lot, like baseball was really boring. It's like I'm just standing out here doing nothing. I don't want to do that. If I'm going to play a sport, I would like to be playing. And I mean, like I just mentioned, I'm short, so basketball was never really in my deck of cards for my future. So
whatever, dude. Obviously never watched Muggsy Bogues. Growing up, man.
Look, he got his talent stolen. I did not want that to happen to me. Yeah, so I feel like that's the greatest way to restart the cycle. That's our pass and go. That's collect $200, and that's kick it back to Will for his pick number 2.
I would say my pick number 2 is I'll say a non-controversial choice of Michael Ballack.
No controversy at all.
No controversy at all.
He was great in Good Will Hunting.
Ballack was just like I like watching the Germans. I always thought they were mega fun, and like just I like their efficiency. I like how they were just no nonsense. And I don't know, they were just like, he was the captain back then. Like he was. Honorable mention, German player goes to Oliver Kahn, obviously, because who doesn't love a crazy goalkeeper? But really, but Ballack was cool. He's just so composed on the ball, just so like, I don't know. Ballack is like, that era of players is just special to me. Like, even like I don't really know if that's necessarily warranted, but he is like the icon from that period of the German team for me, other than Oliver Kahn. But like it just like those guys were just so special.
Yeah, I feel like he got really unlucky to not be like now.
Yeah.
Because the team was so much, as it is now, probably fits him better than it did then. But
for sure.
Yeah, he was great. And he's great. Him and Lawless in the studio for the 2010 World Cup was so uncomfortable,
right?
And so much fun.
It was the worst and the best all at once.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Joseph, let's hear it.
I like that you two just kind of went with like tragic heroes of a sort, like injury played with Alex, Will, like maybe playing in the wrong era as far as like Ballack was 16. I'm gonna go with he's the current guy that like I love, but is currently going through all the issues that look like it's gonna really mess up what is left of his career, and that's Gareth Bale. I will always love Gareth Bale because he's such a unique, background. Like, he was a track star growing up, like he doesn't get tired. He can, in his prime, he could put on that burst of speed and just outrun everyone and just could do it at any point in the game because he never got tired, that sort of thing. He fascinated me. When he rose to prominence, I just was enthralled with it. I was like, this is just absolutely incredible to watch. When he moved to, Real, I was heartbroken. I couldn't really just watch him in the Premier League anymore, where I think, he could have just continued to destroy as opposed, to going to Spain and becoming another cog in the giant Spanish team wheel. And then, of course, he's having all the issues he's dealing with now, which I think is sad, but he's one of those guys whose highlights, just an all-around solid attacking wing, could do so much, a strong, like well-built player. Like, you looked at him and he just, I don't know. And then, of course, it's heartbreaking to even bring up the Champions League final from last year, but his goal in that match, just silly,
ridiculous.
So he's one of those who, like, I would never have any allegiance to any team that he's a part of, as far as I can tell in his going back in his history. I don't know where he was in youth academy or anything, but he's the one who comes to mind as a guy that I would just love watching play as a current player.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He's such a freak of nature.
Yeah,
and it's such a shame that the Madrid fans have just kind of turned on him, and it's just kind of one of those things where everything is going against him. Like, they're putting all the stories in the press, like, oh, he doesn't go out with us, he goes to bed. It's like, right. It's not a bad thing. Like, oh, he plays golf. What a weirdo. So I totally agree with that. It's such a shame that his career has ended up the way it has, even though he's still just ridiculously good.
Yeah, he got his professional career started at Southampton.
So why didn't we sign him?
Why is he not at Liverpool? I guess this was right before we started getting all the Southampton players, apparently. But bring him back right now. Go ahead. Real doesn't want him anymore. Go ahead and bring him back. Let him play the last few years of his career as our secondary wing player. Why not?
He's got great hair. Nivea would love to have him on board.
Absolutely.
Those are both really solid picks, and we're putting together a pretty fantastic team here. I'm gonna go. My next player fits kind of the same bill. His peak was a lot shorter, but I feel like a lot more intense. And that's Johan Gourcuff. He is the most elegant player I've ever seen, including Zidane in that. He was just like the more modern version of Zidane. And he didn't play for as big a team. And Zidane, it's not a dig against Zidane. Zidane's great, but that 2-year period where Gourcuff was in his peak between like 2008 and 2010, it just blew my mind. Because it's
so good.
Yeah, like it wasn't even fair. Like you watch, I went and bought the Bordeaux 2008-2009 season in review DVD in French in Region 2.
Wow.
Modified one of my DVD players to just keep watching him play because it was just like I want to be that player so badly. Because as you can tell, I'm a fan of the creative playmakers.
Oh yeah,
and he was just like the best of the best at that point. And it's such a shame what happened to him injury-wise, personality-wise. I don't know if he was suited for the spotlight. And he was kind of everyone hates him at the 2010 World Cup with the whole France debacle. Like I believe I read a story where Ribéry just like grabbed a book out of his hand that he was reading, just ripped it in half and threw it on the ground.
Yeah, I think you sent us an article about it, and it mentioned that story in the article, just like like a month or so ago. I remember reading it and being like, "This is fascinating."
Yeah, because it was the anniversary of that goal he scored against PSG. If you haven't seen it, listener, go to YouTube and look up Gourcuff versus PSG. It is one of the most insane goals I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So he was just ridiculous and like strong, huge person, but also graceful and like ballet feet. It was just like the Ray Hudson noises. That was me watching him play every week.
Yeah, I think about the players that are like that, the creative players who like the reluctant superstar type of player, the person that doesn't have the personality to really necessarily handle the spotlight. Those are some of the most fascinating players in any sport to me. I think about like Vince Carter in basketball always comes to mind as like he had to be a basketball player because he was so good at basketball, but like never really looked like he actually ever wanted to be the best player on the court. You know, he just happened to be really, really good, all that sort of stuff. And I think with Gourcuff, I don't know, like the player that is always amazing to me who did or has, I guess, quote unquote, handled the spotlight well while being what looks like the personality that wouldn't is Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing about his personality that makes it look like he enjoys doing anything but playing the sport. But he's just found a way to manage it well enough to be just this type of player he is. And I do always wonder with players like, Gourcuff, if that's what, the mismanagement of the spotlight, how much that impacts them. Sorry to derail your thought, but
no, I think it's a super valid point, and I think there's a bit of the stuff that we've heard around Sturridge sometimes, where if Sturridge doesn't feel like he's 100% fit, Sturridge may not play. And that was definitely the case with Gourcuff. There were a lot of players with him at Lyon that was like, he needs to push through some stuff sometimes, and he's fit, but he doesn't feel like he's fit enough to play because he just got hurt so often that he didn't want to push himself. But when he did play, even at Lyon, when it wasn't working, he was still just exceptional. It's a shame to see a talent like that. Now completely, he's a free agent, and I'm really hoping for some reason FC Dallas signs him. It's like not a signing that they would make ever, but that would be ridiculous. You
just want to be able to go see him in person.
Yes, absolutely, and have him sign like my 4 jerseys of his that I bought.
I love whenever you fanboy hard.
I do, yeah. Yeah, it's like seeing that stuff like resonates at a spiritual level. Like the performances when Aymar and Gourcuff were at their peak. It's like, wow. So this is something beyond just a game. Like this is
what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's bring it back around. Let's pass go. Let's collect $200. Let's bring it back to Will.
Yep.
So my third and final is I know it's Joseph's favorite player ever is Didier Drogba.
Yeah.
Freaking love Drogba.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
No, I'm good. Drogba is just. He is like, okay, so I always liked him at Chelsea. Like, he was really fun to watch, but at the same time, like, he is just like such a shit house player. And he was kind of one of the original, like, when I first started watching, like, the OG shit house. And he, I don't know, I just loved it. Like, I loved it. And then I read like some article, I think it was going into the 2006 World Cup, maybe, about how like he ended a civil war in the Ivory Coast or something, like, you know, united the country. And I just thought he was awesome. Like, I loved it. I will watch Drogba all day long.
Now, as I stated in the group text earlier, I have absolutely no qualms at all with you being an awful person with terrible opinions, Will. You just keep on doing your thing, man.
Right?
You're supposed to tweet that at him.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Let me get on there again.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was. Didn't he say he changed his ways because his son or daughter came home from school crying because all of the other children were making fun of him, making fun of DJ to his child, and he was like, "I can't shame my child anymore."
That doesn't exist in my head canon, so no. No, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just love players like that. They're just super fun to watch. It like just people that are like hyper competitive. Like, you have to be hyper competitive to play like that at a sustainable level for that long.
Yes.
And he's still playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, his longevity is outstanding. It really is. Very impressive.
He scored so many different types of goals too. That was a huge thing that made him so admirable, even though a lot of them were against us.
Yeah.
Just like screamers, headers, clutch goals. Yeah.
That is actually the main reason that I don't like Drogba. It was how often he broke my heart whenever playing against Liverpool. That was like the main reason, because like it's like one thing if he is kind of this, you know, as you just said so eloquently, a poop house player.
A bark house.
I'm only saying that because I don't feel like editing this episode anymore. Even if he was that, it's like, okay, whatever. It's the fact that he kept having success against Liverpool while being that type of player that I was like, I hate this guy now.
Yeah.
That's what I got with Drogba.
I'll applaud that, and kudos to you for picking such a tall set of three.
I like tall boys.
Yeah.
Wait, how tall is Drogba?
He's like 6'3", 6 something. Even if he's not that tall, he's just like a massive striker.
His presence was immense.
Wow.
Regardless of his actual height.
Wow. Well, that's actually a pretty good segue. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in here. Yeah, he is 6'2", and it's convenient that you point him out because I was actually going to throw out his fellow 6'2" national team teammate Yaya Toure as my third choice here. As a player that I will always like, no matter who he played for. Yaya is the player that made me fall in love with the rangy box-to-box midfielder. You know, he made me fall in love with just a box-to-box midfielder in general. But the fact that he also was, 6'2", 6'3", whatever it was, and like just lanky, those long legs, like you couldn't get around him. He would just find a way to dribble past you. He hated it if you forgot his birthday, all that sort of stuff.
Don't we all?
But I fell in love with that type of position while watching him play. And I like that. It's one of the reasons why, like, I'm really hopeful that Marko Grujic gets a solid chance.
To hear y'all talk about Grujic, I'm surprised he didn't make either of your lists. Like the way y'all talk about him. Everybody loves Marko Grujic on this podcast.
So this isn't the romance list.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Keep in mind we haven't even touched the Liverpool player.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big Yaya would be my third choice here. Can I give like a quick honorable mention?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
one player that I have a huge amount of sentimental like love for, but like never accomplished anything or really ever got anywhere.
Yeah.
There's two I have to give a shout out to real quick. One of them is former Brighton midfielder / winger Kazinga Lualua.
Wonderful.
As when I fell in love with Brighton as another team, Kazinga was there, and he was one of the guys that would celebrate goals by doing a backflip.
Oh yeah,
that was his goal celebration. He also had a cannon for a leg. So if you look up Kazinga Lualua highlights, most of them are goals from outside the box that are like upper 90, 700 miles an hour, just stupid goals. He just never was consistent enough to really be like the go-to playmaking winger, especially when Brighton got promoted to the Premier League. And so I think he's at Luton Town now, maybe.
I mean, he's got enough L's in his last name that I feel like he needs to play for a team that starts with an L.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's play for Luton.
Yeah, another quick shout out though has to go to Adebayo Akinfinwa.
Nice.
Solely because I told Alex earlier I was going to shout out Akinfinwa here on the podcast, and I got to do it now. The big boy, the big man himself.
Yeah, he's like you took a bike pump and just stuck it in Shaqiri and just pumped it like 4 or 5 times.
Oh man, yeah. Talk about Drogba as a big striker at 6'2", like 185. Then you got Akinfinwa who's clocking in at like 235. Love it.
Yeah, I got to give 2 honorable mentions as well, just because this decision was really tough. Because my first 2 were easy because I'm a super fanboy over there, and then there's like a tier below that where I'm like relatively high fanboy of these players. So first mention is like the modern equivalent of the 2 that I just mentioned earlier. That's Christian Eriksen. I was heartbroken when we didn't sign him. He's like the perfect modern
He would be
playmaker.
so good.
Yeah,
I know. It's such a shame. I love the way he plays. He's just like, he doesn't get tired. He's so good at passing. He's so good at shooting. And I mean, it's fitting that we're playing Spurs this week. To conflict my heart yet again. Second honorable mention, this guy was not like that good at much of anything, but I just saw like a few Celtic games in the mid 2000s and was like, who the hell is this?
Henrik Larsson.
No, not quite him. No, his name is Paddy McCourt. They called him the Derry Pele from Northern Ireland. Like, he was just like this bang average player at most everything, but if like he just scored just exclusively coast to coast solo dribble everyone goals. Like he just looked like he rolled out of bed and he wore copas as a pro. Like, that's the kind of player he was. And he just dribbles everyone. Like, how are you not on Barcelona or something like this? And then you watch other aspects of his game. It's like, oh, he has to dribble everyone because he can't really shoot from that far away because he's wildly inaccurate. But
I'm pulling up Paddy McCourt highlights on YouTube right now. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's so good.
Like, how is he doing that stuff?
I don't understand it. Like, no, it looks like anyone should tackle him at any point in time, and somehow no one does. Like, 7 players come up to him. They're like on his back, and somehow he's still going forward.
I mean, it probably helped that he only played in the Scottish Premier League, and then he played in like the English Championship for Barnsley, I think. But like, every time he'd get the ball, it's like, no matter where he is on the field, he's probably going to score here because no one can tackle him.
He just never goes down.
Yeah, he's like weirdly fast and gangly. So yeah, a huge shout out for him.
He does kind of crouch.
Yeah,
I'm watching highlights.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it honestly looks like you're watching a Messi highlight from when Messi gets on one of his like ridiculous "I'm going to dribble past everyone" highlight reels. Except it's not. It's not.
We should. How old is this guy? Can we sign him?
He's like in his mid-30s now.
He's great. Sign him.
That's fine. Yeah. Akinfinwa was in his mid-30s too.
Another player FC Dallas should sign.
Yeah.
But yeah, put him in, let him win the league by dribbling the entire Spurs and Chelsea defense.
Right.
You mentioned Celtic, whatever, and I said Henrik Larsson because I just knew that's who it was. But if I didn't even think about him when we were talking about this, but I love watching that dude play. He was so good. And like even at Barca, like they signed him when he was like 87 years old, and he still started and scored so many goals for them. He's one of my honorable mentions for sure.
Yeah, he was just like he would score if it was close to the goal.
It's going in.
He was close to the remotely close to the ball, like same zip code. It was ending up in the back of the net.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, besides the Dairy Pele, my actual pick is a guy who I think was kind of the precursor to what the modern striker is now, and I don't think he gets enough credit because he wasn't on a national team that did very well. But I absolutely love Mirko Vucinic. He played for Roma and he played for Juve under Conte, and he was just insane. Like his like not just with his skills, like he would score some really cool goals and get some really good assists, but like his celebrations were insane. So most of the times when you hear that crazy Roma commentator celebrating like really, really high pitched and saying like, go, 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 it was because Vucinic scored a goal, and his trademark celebration, which he did only a few times because it's like an instant yellow or red, is he would take his shorts off. He wouldn't rip his jersey off. He would rip his shorts off and put them on his head. And just like run around in his underwear. Like there's something about this guy. And he's just like it, but he was good. He was good enough to score enough goals to have a trademark celebration where he could take his shorts off. And then there's some goals for Roma where he would just like destroy the hoardings in the celebrations. He'd run behind the goal and just start kicking the crap out of stuff. But I mean, he's underrated. One, his beard is underrated. There was a Juventus tweet celebrating a goal that he scored against Milan a while back. And I tweeted about how Pirlo's beard gets all the credit, but Vucinic, great beard, took it into a mustache sometimes, legendary. And yeah, he scored all different types of goals, and he would get assists. He would drop and connect in the play. And it's you to play for and be a big part of both Roma and Juventus, especially under Conte, with how much he requires his strikers to do. I think is a testament to how good he actually was, even though he didn't really get international plaudits. But yeah, a shame for him that no underwear company jumped in to sponsor him, because they would have gotten a ton of airtime. So yeah. So I know this section ran a little long, and it's hard not to wax lyrical about some of our favorite players. So I guess for this round, let's do our 3 Liverpool players all at once, like pop, pop, pop. Just because we all know a lot about most of the players, more than likely. Like we're all acquainted with the Liverpool players, past and present. So, Will, let's kick it back to you. Let's go with your 3, just the 3 that you love.
So I mean, none of us are super old, so like we're not gonna pick like the Alan Hansons and like the Dalglishas and so like I just never.
It's like I need to redo my list if I'm not
right. No, I mean I started watching. I would watch soccer in general, but I turned it on. I was like, I've heard of Liverpool before. Let's see, who are they playing? Oh, AC Milan. This should be a good game, and it was. And here we are. So I would say that, I mean, like everybody's favorite player from this most recent era is going to be Stevie. So like, I feel like it's cheap to pick him.
Yeah, that was going to be the one. That was what we were talking about at the beginning. That's our given.
Like so I'm not. I mean, he's not. He would be 1, 2, and 3 on my list. First, unfortunately for my broken heart, is Fernando Torres. Mm-hmm. Secondly, Dirk Kuyt, and third is it's like. Regardless of his current form, y'all know that I love Sadio Mane. I have like a Sadio Mane 19 jersey from when he first got signed. I love Sadio Mane. It's probably a 3-way tie between him, Agger, and Pepe Reina.
Pepe Reina, man, that's a good choice. I love Pepe Reina.
A choice Zach could never make, seeing as he's a goalkeeper.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
No, those are solid.
So good.
It's hard. There's nothing you could say against those people, especially considering one of them has pasta on his head.
I said Coit. I'm sorry, Cout. Dirk Cout. My bad.
Mhm.
Whatever. We'll cover both my bases.
I feel like English commentators never could figure out how to pronounce his name, right? Like, just never could.
No, there was never a consensus on how to say it. Like, I think on one of the FIFAs, Clive Tilsley called him like Queeshed. Or like,
Yeah, he did for sure. Queeshed.
Like, where are you getting this?
I think there was even one of the FIFAs in which Martin Tyler says no one can agree on how to say his name, but we'll call him Dirk Kuyt this time. I love it. It was weird to me to see him show up for the Legends game and look exactly the same. As when
He hasn't. He's even better now than he was.
And he's more Dirk Cout than he was when he was Dirk Cout.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, there's some good choices. Yeah, we all kind of fell in love with the team at like the same era, so there's a lot of overlap. I do want to say real quick though that it's weird to me. Like if you had shown me videos of Patty McCourt, going back to Patty McCourt real quick, if you'd shown me these videos and not told me like how old he is or anything like that, I would have guessed this was footage from the 80s. Like the camera quality was so bad. He was playing in like this is from like 2005.
Yeah. It's perpetually 1985 in Scotland. So I mean,
That's why I loved being there so much back in the homeland.
Yeah, like him and Olivier Giroud are just going to look like the best player in like 50 years on YouTube. And like, who were these legends that just score these absolute bangers?
I love it. Oh, man. All right, I'm going to go through my list real quick. If I had to go with an early player from those first days in which we were falling in love with the team, and really starting to, figure out what it was to be a Liverpool fan, all of that. One of the players that I'm going to always love is Javier Mascherano. He's going to be one of my guys I always love. Just a stalwart, absolute stalwart of a player in that midfield. I don't know if I just didn't take it seriously enough to be as impacted by the Fernando Torres situation as the rest of the podcast was. It did not mean as much to me. Sorry, guys. But my player who's like that, I'm a more and I love the ridiculous people. We all know this. So was more heartbroken with Luis Suarez. Suarez, because I love the lunatic. I love the lunatic. There was a Wright Thompson wrote a big piece trying to like when he went back to Uruguay when Wright went to Uruguay to try to figure out like the legend of Luis Suarez, like when he grew up, and basically how his entire career, the reason like he became like motivated to be a pro was just to follow like his girlfriend to Europe so he could marry her. Just weird story. If you ever like look up the Wright Thompson Luis Suarez piece that he wrote, is good stuff. But I love Luis. But the guy that everyone always talks about, in our generation of they tuned in and they fell in love with Stevie G, right? And he was the guy that pulled them into being Liverpool fans. And then I'm always like, yeah, absolutely. I chose Liverpool because I thought Peter Crouch was hilarious.
Yes.
And that is the reason I'm a Liverpool fan, is because I'm watching like the World Cup years ago. He's on the English team. Someone says, dude, check this guy out. He's the goofiest looking thing. He comes out there, he's a skeleton. He does the robot, all that. I'm like, who does this guy play for? That's the club I'm going to support. And they're like, he's at Liverpool. And I was like, perfect. And so that's the reason. I have the worst reasoning to be a Liverpool fan, but there it is. So Peter Crouch will always be one of my legends.
He is. I mean, he's a legend.
He is.
He's the bicycle kick king.
Yeah.
Robot.
The robot. It's the freaking robot. Yeah, I love ridiculous people. So Luis and Crouch are going to be two of my all-time, like no question.
Yeah, those are hard to argue with. And yeah, I guess going back to another one of my picks, Vucinic is like Suarez, but without the dark arts. He's just crazy, but he doesn't bite people or like get weird red cards. He's not insane, but man, yeah, Suarez was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my picks will be an overlap, but I can't not say him. It's definitely Torres.
Yeah.
Like, I was a striker when he was the Liverpool striker. He was just my hero. Like he's still my number 9. Like I love Bobby, but Torres will always be my number 9. He was just so freaking cool. The hair, the boots, the finishes, the sleeves, the long sleeves, no matter what. Like, forget about it. Yeah, and mine's going to be an all Spanish affair. My next
Like
is
it.
Xabi Alonso.
Yes.
Nice.
I mean, you heard earlier, I love elegance in a player, and he is elegance personified. I've already talked about beards. Amazing beard. I mean, 2 midfield goals for the club. Are you kidding me? Like, the stuff he would do with the ball, he's one of the greatest passers ever, probably. And we were lucky enough to have him on our team for a while. And, yeah, he's just majestic. And my final one is a different Luis. It's Luis Garcia. Because I love that
drink
moment.
sangria.
Yeah, and he scores just ridiculous goals versus Juventus. Like it's one of my favorite goals of all time. Just dropping over the shoulder, bang, dipping into the back post. Just oh my goodness! And like for again another shorty, but he was so good in the air. Like there's a Griezmann kind of reminds me of Luis Garcia in the sense that he's 5'7", 5'8". And he just scores an absurd amount of headers. And Luis Garcia was the same way. But he was such a good striker. He was such a workhorse. He did so much for the team. I mean, he's such a part of the club history. And he's still connected to the club. He went as a ghost goal for Halloween one year, which I found absolutely amazing. So I mean, he was right around that time when Liverpool was becoming more and more prevalent on TV. So you could really get into him. And yeah, just man, I love him. Love them all. Love those Spanish boys.
Is it possible for me to have Xabi Alonso and Javier Mascherano combined into one player?
Yeah, I feel like they're a duo. I know
they really were.
Yeah, like Xabi was here first, but I feel like them together it's like the sword and the shield.
Yeah.
Alonso is just like he's so ridiculous because like it's not a coincidence that he won the Champions League at Liverpool, then went to Madrid and won everything, then went to Bayern and won everything. Like there's a common denominator here, and it's him. He's so freaking good.
And who else could like fall up as you get older like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying we're not as big as Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, but who else could go to Bayern at the end of his career? I'll just finish my career at Bayern Munich
and start for like 3 years. Yeah, he's ridiculous. I loved watching him play too. I kind of got on his like he was like kind of a don't know what you got till it's gone kind of thing for me. Like he was always fun to watch, but I never was like Xabi, until he was gone, and I was like Xabi. Because we were playing Jay Spearing instead of him. But yeah.
He just had like the cleanest striking technique I've ever seen. Like I don't think he's ever mishit anything because he just strikes it so purely. It's just marvelous.
Love it. Hey guys, did you know that Paddy McCourt played for Brighton and Hove Albion?
Did I just? You need to go revise your list and put him on yours.
He's in there now, man. Gotta be.
Good.
He appeared in 10 matches, 2014 to 15, scored no goals.
Well, what are they playing? They should have played him at like center back so he could dribble the whole team.
Yeah, apparently.
Striker. There's not enough people in the way.
Yep.
Oh man.
Well, I guess that's as good a place as any. To leave it as Joseph goes onto eBay and tries to find a McCourt 20 jersey from his Brighton days online.
Oh God, I'm doing it now.
But I hope this gave you a better sense of how we view the game. Y'all can get to know us a little better, and there's more to us than just the weird stress that we always exhibit week in, week out. So yeah, just we'd love to hear from y'all about your favorite players, Liverpool or not. We'll talk about them for days. Tweet at us at YNTA Podcast your favorite Paddy McCourt goal. There's plenty to choose from. There's one against Inverness, I believe. I remember that one. They're the blue and red team in one of the clips. But yeah, so we'd love to hear from you. Joseph, Will, thanks for giving us those peeks inside your mind.
Yeah, I'm sorry all of mine are terrible.
Yeah, and I know it's a completely different time from when we recorded the earlier episode. So again, thank you for joining us later in the week. And we look forward to doing this again sometime when we think of 3 other players that we really like.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. This is a good segment.
Yeah. This is fun.
Yeah. So, okay. Bye-bye.